This is literal indentured servitude. There's no other term for it, happening at American Express, at Capital One, at any of these major tech companies or financial institutions with large tech departments. Crucial that you understand this. AI, in this case, I regret to inform you, stands for actually India. Why is it so hard to get a job in tech right now? If you're job hunting right now, it might seem like you're just throwing your resume into a black hole and you're never hearing back. But all of these companies have job postings and all of them are hiring. What exactly is going on here? The domestic American workforce is being replaced by imported cheap labor and offshored cheap labor. This is happening in many different sectors, but it's happening the most in tech. I worked as director of engineering at American Express for about a year, 366 days to be exact. And I made a video about it a few days ago. And one of the biggest bombshells in that video, among others, was that Amex is bringing in large numbers of H-1B recipients and giving them priority treatment over American citizen employees and job applicants for their open roles. In addition to this, they're ramping up their presence in India and offshoring en masse while laying off American citizen teams. The video went well, really well. Tons of comments. And suspiciously on this platform, the video was not put in front of too many people. I'll let you draw your own conclusions there. But what did happen is it blew up on other platforms like X, LinkedIn, and just plain word of mouth. The number of viewers on that video that came directly from WhatsApp or Signal chats that I don't have access to and am unaware of is astounding. And if those comments reassured me slightly that I was doing the right thing by getting this information out there, telling my story, putting my face, name, and identity, by taking a risk and getting that story out there, the direct messages blew my mind. They went way past that. Just on LinkedIn alone, I received almost 100 direct messages, not only of people thanking me, but of people telling their own stories. Former Amex employees, current Amex employees, as well as employees from big tech companies that said that they see this going on at XYZ Corporation, as well as pretty much all of the other major banks. I even had a couple of friends reach out that are in very high-level leadership positions in other tech organizations, banking, your critical sectors, let's just say, reaching out with their stories, saying that they see this happening, and despite the fact that they are in a very high tenured position at the company, they're unable to do anything to change it, and they're unable to advocate for American citizen employees, despite these companies all being American companies. The original reason I posted that video was because the executive VP, or the unit CIO of American Express, Sachin Devan, he used to be in my chain of command when I worked there. I worked in his organization. I spoke with him on multiple occasions. He posted a LinkedIn post taking credit for the Platinum Card refresh and specifically the technology underlying that. Meanwhile, I know the inside story. I led the platform team there. It was like pulling teeth to bring modernization efforts to American Express's tech stack. So I simply pointed out in a comment on his LinkedIn post that things like API-based architecture are table stakes for modern web app development. In fact, it's embarrassing that so much money was spent on this and so little technological progress was made. And it's certainly not the fault of the software engineers. I will tell you that much from being inside and working at Amex. It is the fault of the leadership. Almost immediately after I posted that comment, a flood of "you go man" comments came in from my friends, either currently or formerly at Amex. And then rapidly the comment was deleted and Amex personnel blocked me from viewing Sachin's LinkedIn page. At that point, I decided that I had enough to make a video off of. So I decided to tell everything that happened to me over the past year. That's part one of this story. So go back and watch that if you haven't seen that video yet. So the video comes out, it gets some initial traction. Like I said, despite having very strong characteristics in terms of its metrics, it's not shown to a lot of people, let's say, which is surprising compared to similar metrics on other videos that I have. But then two things happen in pretty rapid succession a couple days later. I'm looking at my YouTube analytics and I see sort of the regular trend line of views on the Amex video. And then I see it start to go straight up, and it continues to go straight up for about an hour. Once more analytics data comes in, I see that a lot of that traffic is coming from Reddit. So I task Claudebot, I say, hey, find the Reddit post that is driving traffic here. And it found two. It found one in CS Career Questions, and it found another in Experienced Devs. Those comments were much the same as the messages I've been receiving. People sharing their stories, thanking me for getting this information out there, and backing up everything I said with their own experience. Yet I woke up today and found two things. On the CS Career Questions post, all of my comments responding to viewers were removed. But over on Experienced Devs, the subreddit, it's even worse. The post was just entirely deleted and locked for no apparent reason. No explanation, no reasoning for how this violated a rule. I think they flagged it as self-promotion, but I was in fact not the one that posted it. Somebody else posted it, and I found out about the traffic from my YouTube analytics. So it was taken down for self-promotion, but I wasn't self-promoting. Somebody else shared the video. I should note that on Experienced Devs too, it received about 500 to 600 upvotes, which does not sound like a lot, but that is like top of the week for that subreddit. And then today, I go public with a project I've been working on since the video got initial traction, and that's my site H-1B exposed.tech. I post this on Hacker News, which, if you're unfamiliar, this is a programmer-centric social media. It's sort of like a Reddit where there's upvotes. You can give things points. And so I post it on there and I say, here's my site. This is tracking the H-1B numbers for JP Morgan Chase, American Express, and Capital One. It's not editorialized. The numbers are there. The data's there. I say where I cite the data sets from. I'm not making bold conclusions that aren't clearly manifested in the data there. And I just post it. No description, just a title. It gets about 40 or 50 points within 30 minutes, which on Hacker News posted late in the day. I've gone viral on there many times. That is an extraordinary amount of velocity, especially for late in the day. And so I go out this afternoon for a walk with my wife and my daughter. We go to the playground for a little bit, come back about a half hour later, and I go to the post. It's hidden from the chronological Hacker News feed, and the post has been flagged. No rule cited, no contact, no description, nothing. Just Gary Tan's power fantasies run wild, censoring this news. I will leave it to you, the viewer, to draw conclusions of why they might have done this. So 4 platforms, 4 acts of suppression. LinkedIn, Reddit, a video hosting platform I won't name, and now Hacker News of all places, all within days of each other. And I have to be honest with you, this tells me more than any earnings report could. We deserve to put American workers first until American tech unemployment is at an all-time low. We should not sponsor any more visas or offshore any of our work to other countries. We should put our own people first. At some point, that became a radical and sensational standpoint when just 30 years ago, when I was growing up, this was how everybody felt. But before we get into what I built, I want to talk about the response to that video. There's an outpouring of people thanking me for having the courage to post it, but I want to read you 3 messages that I received because people reached out privately, and not only did they thank me, they shared their stories. So I want you to understand this is not one man's crazy rant. A lot of you have seen this, but if you have not seen it and you need some additional proof, I'm going to read through these. And if you are terrified because you messaged me, don't worry. I've anonymized these so that it is not going to come back to you. So the first one is from a current engineer at a major bank, and they report up through the CTO org at their company. He's Indian American. He grew up here in America. He believed in the American dream. His words, not mine. He sent me a DM on LinkedIn and said, "It's getting ridiculous at Amex. I myself am Indian American and am shocked by the incompetence, nepotism, and greed on display. I've been working here for a number of years now." Let that sit for a second. This is not some disgruntled ex-employee, which is maybe how you view me. This is a guy who's there right now, who came from the same community that's supposedly benefiting from this system, and he's telling me privately that it is broken. To continue, he asked how he can support my work going on here, that he would like to share it publicly, like it publicly, but he knows he can't do any of that publicly because he will be retaliated on. They will trump up charges to put him on a performance improvement plan and kick him out because he's supporting me talking about this. The second message comes from a former contractor of a major bank, Taiwanese American, and hired through one of these consulting firms to the bank. She told me when she recounted this in such a way that it mirrors almost identical to my first day at Amex. She said that she was excited to work in the US, and she walked into the office and it was almost all Indian nationals. Her coworkers, her manager, her director. She said that 90% of the contractors were on H-1B or OPT visas. When her contract ended, she applied to come back. No interview, no feedback. They rehired a former Indian coworker on OPT who had less experience than her instead. And in fact, I had to do this when hiring a manager at American Express. The way that this is supposed to work at American Express is when a role becomes open, when a manager spot becomes open, you must interview for the role and you must take additional candidates from inside the company. And so there was a promising individual that I wanted to promote into the role, but I am interested in doing this in a fair way. And instead of interviewing a number of other internal candidates, they threw me someone who was obviously unqualified to make the case that we did our due diligence, we did our vetting. I was instructed by my manager, the VP of engineering, to do it this way. That it was intentionally a farce because we needed to create the role and interview somebody to give the appearance that this was an open role that other people could apply to. I still regret and feel some shame that I did not push back harder, but I am not one of these wealthy dudes. I need to work for a living. I have a kid. I have a wife that I support. I'm a sole breadwinner. So you can judge me harshly. I certainly judge myself harshly for doing that, but I had to keep the money coming in and keep the food on the table. So this woman goes on to say in her account, this is something that I had no idea of. She said that consulting firms have a scheme that if you're on the bench, so you're between client assignments, so you get one of these consulting firms like Tata or Infosys or one of the other big ones that are basically shell companies to help mass immigration into the country, they'll farm you out, right? They're like a pimp. And so they'll farm you out to a company and you work there. You work a 6-month contract, you work a 12-month contract, then the contract's over. Maybe it doesn't get renewed. So you go back on the bench. And so this is effed up. I had no idea that this was going on. So if you're on the bench, let's say you do a 6-month stint in American Express, I'm talking about it like it's a prison, it kind of is. And then they don't renew your contract and you're working for Tata, technically. They farm you out to Amex, contract doesn't get renewed. And you're on the bench for 3 months at Tata. They pay you to do nothing during those 3 months, okay? Which sounds pretty good, right? You get to keep your H-1B visa, you get to stay in the country, you get to keep some benefits, you get to keep what you've fought for. And then, hey, Cap One gives a call, they got a spot open, they farm you out to Capital One. Now, the effed up part, and I cannot believe that this is not illegal, you need to know this, and I'm grateful for her for relaying it to me, is those 3 months that you were on the bench and getting paid by the consulting firm, you need to pay them back once you get your new assignment, which is like literal indentured servitude. So this is literal indentured servitude. There's no other term for it happening at American Express, at Capital One, at any of these major tech companies or financial institutions with large tech departments. It's crucial that you understand this. Third one, current employee at Amazon Web Services. He described walking through the corporate offices and said, his words, quote, "It's like an office block in Mumbai during monsoon season," unquote. His words, not mine. He said, once you get one Indian import manager, they hire almost exclusively from the same culture. If they do hire an American, it's short term to meet the quota. Hello, Exhibit A at Amex. Hire the white guy to make it look like we're not totally racist, and then squeeze him out after a year so we don't have to keep him around because he's going to start talking about really inconvenient stuff like this. I did some digging on the statistics around this. Here's a number that should spook you pretty bad. With the recent US layoffs at AWS, those have been massive. We've been covering those on the channel for the past couple of months now. For every one American worker laid off at AWS, 5 more were hired in India. 5 for 1. All of this done under the guise of AI. If you want to know the neurolinguistic programming tricks that they're using to sell this to stakeholders, please look at my other videos. I outline this very clearly. It's easy to miss. And the AI, in this case, I regret to inform you, stands for actually India. These messages are a tiny fraction of what came in. Almost 100 DMs on LinkedIn, countless messages on X. I'm still going through them. People have found out my private email and started emailing me there. It is insane. I will never get through all of the messages. All of them are telling the same story, and all of them are terrified to speak out about it. Terrified. And so who is behind all of the banning and the blocking that is going around with me talking about this lately. It's just very clear that they don't want these videos talking about this in front of people, that the algorithm is penalizing me, that they don't want me posting on social media sites about this, that whenever it gets traction, it's like sticking your head up above the grass and getting mowed down. They do not want people to rally around somebody talking about this. And so I cannot prove that American Express called Reddit moderators. I can't prove coordination, but I can observe the pattern. Comment deleted, profile blocked, viral post removed, shadow banned, as I've found out in a few instances. All pointing in the same direction and all starting right after that story started to get a crazy amount of traction. And American Express executives, I know you're watching because I've seen a number of you on my LinkedIn profile views. And after I mentioned that in the other video, you still visit my page. I'm planning on posting that soon in a future video so everyone can see how silly you look. I mean, this is damage control 101 and you are botching it. You are fumbling the football. But on this channel, we always follow the data. And so that's exactly what I've done. So let me show you what I built. This is my new website, H-1B exposed.tech. This is live on the web now. You can visit it now. We'll see if my hosting provider drops me. We'll see how long we can keep this site online. And what this site is the result of a ton of research I've done on this go around and pre-existing research that I had while I was at Amex to try to see, hey, am I crazy that things are a little bit nutty here with the visa situation? I have so much information here from, let's go down to my sources here. Primarily coming from Department of Labor. We have USCIS Employer Data Hub. That has been illustrative. SEC 10K filings to start to corroborate numbers between what these companies are saying in their earnings reports. We can start to glean a little bit of secret information. And then, of course, Bureau of Labor Statistics, so I'm not making erroneous claims about what the average or median salary for XYZ type of engineer is. So let's just go through this a little bit. Let's do American Express. So the first thing you're going to notice here is LCA filings versus H-1B approvals. Their approval rate for H-1Bs is 99.1%. That means somebody in that office is just slapping a rubber stamp on those applications and saying, bring them in, bring them in. I don't care. American citizen workers? No. Nope. We are going to pay, actually above median. We're going to pay these dudes $151K, even though the median is $130K. But remember, they got to work 80 hours a week. And this is not me, anything you want to nail on me. This is not me. Other people have contacted me and said, I am on H-1B. They make us work insane hours. I cannot say no, or else I have to go home and I lose my insurance. I feel like a slave. That should not be the case in this country, whether you're a citizen or not. So the first thing you're going to notice about Amex statistics, and I've seen this before, is they play a clever shell game. They have two major companies that they bucket these applications under. One is American Express. I believe the other one is American Express Global Business Travel. Those are the two major ones. And then they have 3 or 4 additional companies that have like 10 to 50 applications on them. So they've spread this around. So you're never going to see them in the headlines. And this is actually fairly clever. You're never going to see them in the headlines because they spread their numbers around a couple different companies. So they're never going to rank highly. Like when you see those top 10 lists of how many H-1Bs were sponsored by a company, they've been fairly clever. And the researchers on those posts have been lazy and not really dug into the evidence, because they've only considered the company American Express Inc. or whatever it is to be the entire company, when really it's spread across multiple different shell corporations. So you have a very tough time keeping track of how many they've sponsored. All of these companies are also playing geographic arbitrage. And what I mean by that is and I noticed this was actually crazy. So let me tell you a story first, and then I'll explain what this means. So I'm working at American Express, and I'm there for a month or two, and I get called away to this business trip to go to the main office in Manhattan, in New York City. I'd never actually been to New York City before. I was super stoked. And I get there, and I go into the office, this really nice tower. It's right across from where the World Trade Center was. Beautiful view. Take the elevator up to one of the floors. And I'm there over, a couple of days, and I'm on a couple of different floors in big meetings with people. And I noticed something. I'm like, there aren't a lot of Indians here. And that's pretty strange because Phoenix is almost entirely Indians. And if you don't believe me, I mean, I could tell you where their headquarters is. If you just sit at the stoplight out there, park your car in the dirt, there's a little dirt across the road, just sit there and just look at people stopped, making the turns into the stoplight. You'll see what I'm saying. This isn't racist. This is just visually looking at people. And the demographic is, let's say, very, 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 very different in New York. I think, this is kind of strange. So the thing that I dug into, and all the companies are doing this to some degree, although they all have their own shape about it, is they are bringing these H-1Bs in, and then they are stashing them or making them work in places that have a lower cost of living. So for American Express, I've never been to their Florida campus, but I would suspect it's much the same there in Hollywood, Florida, I believe it is, or Sunrise maybe. But in Phoenix, Arizona, the cost of living, as you see here, cost of living index is 97, which is about half of what it is in New York at 187. And you'll see here by the stats, over half are placed in Phoenix, and they don't account for this wage difference too. So of course, given the choice, you're going to choose Phoenix. Who wouldn't? I mean, it's a better city anyways, but you can fight me about that in the comments. And here's the real lead here. Only 34% of Amex's workforce is based in the US. And remember, many of those are not US citizens. If you want the full report, and Capital One and JP Morgan Chase are on there as well, I plan to add more companies starting to foray into big tech as time goes on, if there's sufficient interest in this website. But spread it around, go take a look at the numbers and form your own conclusions. All of the data is there. All of my sources are cited. You can go pull this data yourself and run the numbers if you want to. Nothing is hidden or editorialized there. This is really what is happening. This is my own experience, but now we have numbers to back it up. It's the experience of hundreds of other people that have messaged me, hundreds of people in the comments. This is what's happening in our country. So 3 major banks, thousands of H-1B approvals a year, employees at all of them telling the same story independently and anonymously, which is how you know it's true. Performance ratings are rigged and in some cases done by race, and certainly are weighted towards gender too. I haven't even gotten into the rampant sexism that I saw at American Express. Nothing makes my blood boil more than turning this field that used to be very meritocratic into something that is not meritocratic anymore. It bugs the hell out of me. American workers are pushed out and offshore centers are expanding. And then when you put these numbers into a video, into a website, and start to talk about them, most places block you or make sure that nobody of any consequence is ever going to see it. This isn't a conspiracy theory. These are Department of Labor filings. These are USCIS documents. This is data that the government collected and made available. And we can assume that those numbers are already cooked to some degree. I just put it on a website where you can actually go through it. Again, I'll link that in the description. It's h1bexposed.tech. It is free. There is no paywall. There is no login. The link is in the description. I urge you, please go take a look at those numbers yourself and share that with other people. Lord knows I can't post it anywhere without getting banned, blocked, or shadow banned. And like I said, if this pattern holds, I bet somebody will go after my hosting too. If you want to support this kind of work and this kind of journalism on the H-1B Exposed site, there is a link that says support my work. You can get involved with a $5 donation every month. It helps support my hosting costs and it keeps this channel independent. Don't get me wrong. The channel has blown up over the past couple of weeks, even before I started talking about this issue. And it's going to continue to grow in a big way. I will take on sponsors on the channel, but I will never take on a sponsor that tells me what I can and can't say. The moment they do that, they will be dropped. And I will explain, hey, they reached out and said that I had to say this, so we no longer have so-and-so as a sponsor. But the more that I can independently fund this channel and these websites and this research, the less I have to worry about that, and the more research and journalism. Your support makes it much easier to keep it just the numbers, the filings, and somebody willing to put their name on it and put a face to it. I am Dr. J. I am pissed off, and I will see you in the next one.